Player of the year. This one was maybe more of a runaway, I think,
than
you
think
thought
so.
at the beginning of the year. And, boy, you talked to an SAC coach after they played Wayne, and they still didn't have an answer for what Keon Powers brought to the table. He's my pick.
Yeah, definitely Keon Powers. I mean, the way that kid played all season, I mean, you look at him when he comes out of the field, and you could tell people, hey, that kid's got over 3,000 total yards, and so he doesn't. People look at 5'7" of him and 5'9", and no way. But that kid, every team seemed to have a plan every week how they were going to take away Keon Powers, and nobody was able to do it until Snyder did it in the sectional. And they needed a game 2 weeks before to kind of see what they had to do and what to take away. The kid's elusive. He's quick. He's fast. He's smart. He just tore up defenses all year.
I think there was probably one or two plays in every game that we saw where you thought he was going to get sacked for 6 yards, or where you thought, negative yardage coming up, and he would either elude the defense and flick one up for his brother, or make three guys miss in the backfield and then go in for a touchdown. Yeah. I mean, just game-changing plays every single week from this guy.
Yeah, those going along those lines, there was always a couple times a game where I would look down to write the play down and look back up and he's still running, just because he thought he was going down the backfield. So, I mean, the kid, a tremendous kid. I hope he gets a shot at the college level somewhere. Not sure if he gets a shot at quarterback, but he needs to be on the field somewhere for somebody, and he's definitely a great talent.
He's one of those guys you wish he was 3 inches taller and maybe 25 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
And the MAC schools, the Big Ten schools would have more interest, but kind of a little guy. And like you said, maybe not a quarterback on the next level, but you got to think he can play somewhere.
Yeah, you got to think he could be in the slot for somebody.
Other guys that you might consider, I thought Pearson Harnish had a really nice season, considering he was injured, missed some time with pretty nasty upper body injury.
Yeah.
To come up with the kind of stats that he had, we'll talk about those in a minute. And Jesse Bates, I think we talked a little bit about it last week. If Keon Powers isn't in the SAC, maybe the best guy in the SAC is a defensive player only.
Yeah, definitely. Jesse Bates, I mean, every time you heard about a Snyder big play, you automatically thought about Jesse Bates, and more often than not, it was him making big plays, big interceptions, big fumbles. I mean, that kid, physically, if he continues to mature, is going to be the real deal at Toledo. I think really Toledo landed a big-time underrated prospect in terms of Jesse Bates. I think he could have gotten a shot at Purdue or IU, in my opinion, just because of a ball hawk that he is. Measurables may not be where people think, but at 6 foot, a 6 foot safety that has size, which he should be able to put on at Toledo. I mean, that's a Big Ten safety. So I think he's kind of underrated, and he proved it this year. Great kid too, and a great player.
Yeah, even in the LaPorte game, when they made some plays on defense, it was Jesse Bates on 4th and goal from the 1 that makes the stop in the backfield. It was Jesse Bates breaking up a touchdown pass in the second quarter in that game to help keep it close and limit LaPorte to a field goal. I mean, I know ultimately the game didn't turn out as they wanted, but he made some big plays defensively. Pearson Harnish over 1,600 yards rushing, over 1,300 yards passing. That's with a missed game. 24 rushing touchdowns, 8 passing touchdowns. 89 total tackles going into that final game against Northridge. I mean, the guy did it in every way, shape, or form. He's got to be in my top 3.
Yeah, definitely. Another really personable kid, nice kid, and it was unfortunate just that Norwell really didn't have the wins that they thought they were going to. Had a good run in the postseason, but overall, that slow start kind of put them under the radar, and all those close losses. But Pearson Harnish was really good and really solid on both sides of the ball, and especially defensively, underrated as a defensive player. Is going to be a linebacker at the next level, and he's a really tough kid.
Other guys that you think should be maybe in the discussion, maybe a top 5.
Nishawn Jones had a phenomenal year for New Haven. Kind of a guy, he averaged, I think he ran for over 100 yards every game, except for the last one. Other kids, you look at guys like Dylan Connor for Carroll, the linebacker, just a tackling machine for them. And we talk so much about the Carroll offense, but Dylan Connor is kind of the anchor of that defense. So, Austin Max had a good year. Noah Wazinski's had a good year.
Right.
But it's Keon Powers and everybody else.
Yeah, and Austin Robertson. Kind of hard to quantify a defensive end in terms of how valuable are they on the high school level, considering people don't throw that much, so there aren't that many opportunities for sacks. Although Snyder would disagree, considering how well he played against them in the game
definitely.
in the postseason.
Yeah, and he had a huge game too in the postseason, like you mentioned, and it's tough with Robertson because Wayne, especially at the beginning of the year, was just giving up so many points. Mm-hmm. So to look at him and say, they're giving up 27 points a game, how are we picking a defensive player from Wayne?
Right.
But to be in the top 5 for Player of the Year. But I mean, definitely his stat lines. His last game against Snyder. 12 tackles, 4.5 sacks, a fumble recovery, a forced fumble. I mean, that kid was all over that night.
More importantly for him, the college coaches are going to love what they see on tape.
And
when
an
they take a
underrated
look
tight
at
end
it.
too. I mean, that kid. I know he loves focusing on defense, but he's a matchup nightmare offensively.
Now, this one is the one that I struggled the most with, coming up with candidates and really sorting things out. Coach